The following program contains shockingly brilliant insights. If you suffer from a lack of dark sunglasses, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your optometrist.
Hola, señores y señoritas. Vamos a tener un programa magnífico hoy. Estoy muy contento de estar contigo. Guantanamo. They live in Guantanamo. Guantanamo. They live in Guantanamo. No trial for you. And no Ramadan too. Guantanamo. You live in Guantanamo. You don't like the way you live in the prison, huh? Then how come you are terrorista? Oh, you don't like the terrorista housing? Well, then you need to live in Guantanamo. You live in Guantanamo. Guantanamo. We're going to have a great program. Stay with me. We live in Guantanamo. Guantanamo. We live in Guantanamo.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. The only TV host arrested more times than Mahatma Gandhi, Randall Terry.
Got that song stuck in my head now. I live in Guantanamo, oh, Guantanamo, oh, riba. All right, we're going to talk about Guantanamo Bay today. We're going to talk about the burial of the terrorist in Virginia. He's really close by here. Do not come and desecrate his grave, please. And some exclusive footage from interviews outside of the trial of baby killer Kermit Gosnell. That and so much intellectual firepower that you're not going to be able to change the channel. If you actually reached out right now to your television, go ahead and try it. I dare you. You go like... A good chess player can look and calculate multiple moves into the future. You don't have to be a grandmaster like me to know what the end game is if we don't elect righteous leaders and reject tyranny. Our country will fall just like the blistering idiot Bobby Fischer's king fell when I demolished him in less than 20 moves. 20 moves! Hillary is now my muse. Hillary, what should I do the show on? What's that? Terrorism? Okay, whatever you say. It's creepy. It's creepy. All right. Tamerlan Tsarnaev is buried here near us in Virginia in a Muslim cemetery. Now, what I want to do today, besides show you some footage from the Gosnell murder trial, is I want to talk with you about the historic peaceful religion of Islam. Did you know that the word Islam actually means surrender? And that the Muslims divide the entire world into Dar al-Islam and Dar al-Harb. Dar al-Islam means the house of surrender. The areas of the world that have surrendered to Sharia law, to Muslim rule. Dar al-Harb means the house of war. That's it. The lost and the found, the faithful and the infidel, the house of surrender and the house of war, where the peaceful religion of Islam is trying to bring about the conversion of us infidels through the use of terror, the sword, the threat of violence, the strangulation of Christianity, etc. All of the tactics and tools that have been used historically by Islam since Muhammad himself walked the face of Saudi Arabia. Except when he was flying into Jerusalem. That's a whole other story I'll tell you about some other time. Called the night flight. Don't try it at home, people. He did not have a flying carpet. Anyway, if you want to Google the night flight of Muhammad, you'll see what I'm talking about. So anyway, Sarnef is buried. It took weeks to find a place to put one dead body. One dead terrorist. You may remember that Osama bin Laden was buried at sea. That means that his body was disposed in the ocean for this exact purpose. Because they didn't want a magnet. They didn't want a place where terrorists could come to pay homage and maybe leave a bomb or two on their way out of town. All right. It is a part of our Christian duty to bury the dead. So I want to be very clear for the record that I am not opposed to this man's body being buried somewhere. And as it turns out, it's in a small, privately owned Muslim cemetery in Virginia. The leaders of the mosque were not told that he was going to be buried there. This was done secretly, literally at parts it appears, under cover of dark, at least transporting his body. And he is now, his mortal remains are laid to rest. One terrorist dead, and we had trouble finding a place to put him. So where are you going to put the 160 or so accused terrorists who are in Guantanamo Bay right now? Think about it. We had trouble finding a place for one dead body. Right now, there are still being held in Guantanamo about 160 men accused of terrorism who have not stood trial. They're simply there. Have you ever wondered what their conditions are like? What they do with their days? And why, even as I speak, over 100 of them are attempting to starve themselves to death? I will tell you more about this when we come back from this break. If that type of thing interests you, you're in the right place. If it doesn't interest you, please turn the dial and go watch some fluff, some inane nonsense to further corrupt your brain so that you can be happy, dumb, and fat. Your life excelling in bread and circuses. Please, give me a circus. No, wait, just wait 1 minute. Where's Hillary? Hillary, what do I do next? More on terrorism? Yes? Okay. I'll be right back. You look good in black. Oh, that's blue?
Why is it then when you have been looking for something for hours, you find it in the last place you look? Could it be that it's because when you find it, you quit looking?
Every day in America, over 3,500 babies are torn apart by abortion. Shouldn't all babies, like this living, unborn child, have the right to life? Baby killing will only end when Americans see the truth of what abortion does to innocent children. You can help end this Holocaust by showing the truth of abortion in your area with a Face the Truth tour. Go to FaceTheTruthAmerica.com to set up a Face the Truth tour in your area. The babies and their mothers will be eternally grateful. In the 1980s, banks introduced designer checks. When my buddy George Johnson inquired at the bank, they had nothing for pro-lifers. So the Johnsons created beautiful pro-life bank checks showing babies with a strong pro-life message. You can speak out for life with every check you write, whether personal or business checks. Be a voice for babies with these pro-life checks. Go to prolifecheckguy.com to see more. That's prolifecheckguy.com. Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Welcome back to the program, friend. My co-host Hillary and I want to welcome you to the Voice of Resistance. Ow! Ow! Let go! Ow! She bit me! Am I bleeding? Oh my gosh. All right, anyway. We have about 160. I know the transitions are a little rough today. They're a little rough. You guys you're gonna follow me, Lane? You're gonna stay here in the camera, right? That Hillary doll really didn't bite me. That was just all fake. I'm okay, everyone. I know that some of you are worried. All right. There are about 160 men being held in Guantanamo, and some despair has evidently set in. I want to give you a little bit of background. You may remember that President Obama in 2008, when he was Senator Obama, promised that when he got in office, within a year, he would shut down Guantanamo Bay as a prison facility. Well, evidently, he got some news that he did not foresee when he was that strapping young socialist Muslim, as he called himself the other day. Namely, where could he put them? Some of these people are known terrorists, and so the first question is, do we try them in military court? Do we do a prisoner exchange? If so, with who? Who do you exchange terrorists with because they're not submitted to any government? Do we try them in a civilian court? Well, what civilian laws did they break? They maintain that they are warriors and therefore should be treated under various Geneva Conventions as prisoners of war. So this mess has not been resolved. The Bush administration released, if my memory is correct, almost 500 of these men as the years of his administration went forward. There are still some that are simply probably not going to be released. In an effort to try and make life easier for them, they allowed them to have communal living. Now, I've spent a lot of time in jail, all right? I want you to understand that I've been in federal prison, a state prison work camp, various county jails. I've been in maximum security lockdown on death row with one iron cell in a place where they slip your food in. I have no love of prison. And I know the difference between having communal living, like I had as a federal prisoner, and having solitary confinement. These men were granted, over time, a lot of leeway. So the guards actually didn't even have to be in the building. They were self-policed. They had cameras everywhere so they could see every area of the building. They were allowed to celebrate Ramadan together. They were allowed to have their prayers together. They were given their own personal DVD players so that they could watch movies that they wanted anytime, day or night. The military spent over $700,000 to put in a soccer field for them. What kind of soccer field costs $700,000? Really and truly. They put in a $700,000 soccer field for them. Well, at the beginning of this calendar year, some difficulties arose with some of the inmates, and so the authorities went in and did what is called a shakedown. That's when they go through every single room and they look to see if anyone has weapons, a piece of metal that they forged into a knife perhaps, if they have been accumulating their meds, because when you're in prison, the doctor or the nurse, the attending nurse, will give you whatever medication you need for the day, and they're supposed to watch you swallow it in their presence. Well, it's very common for people to learn to tuck it away in their cheek and swallow it and pretend that they're swallowing, but get back to the cell and begin to accumulate whatever drugs it is. These drugs might be accumulated so that somebody could get high. They might be accumulated so that somebody could attempt suicide. And one inmate actually did kill himself overdosing with drugs. So as tensions began to rise, the Army commander on the site said, do not reward good behavior or bad behavior. Never, ever, 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 ever reward bad behavior. Well, some of the inmates in the big communal room started to cover up every lens of every camera in the entire facility. They let this go on for a few weeks, and basically the authorities had to plan a massive takeover where they went in with firing rubber bullets, apprehending one inmate at a time, and sticking them in their cells all the way back to lockdown. All right, we've got to take a break. I'll tell you more of what they're facing on a day-to-day basis. The request of the facility for $200 million. Now they're saying, well, if we got to keep them, we want $200 million to build state-of-the-art facilities. I'll tell you about that. And the Gosnell footage. Don't go away. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last.
Moments with Moses. All the leading priests and the people likewise were exceedingly unfaithful, following all the abominations of the nations. And they polluted the house of the Lord, which he had hallowed in Jerusalem.
Welcome back to the program, friend. So, there are over 100 inmates right now that are trying to starve themselves to death. This happened because when the tensions arose, as I was telling in the last segment, the authorities came in and physically, violently grabbed one detainee at a time. It took them several days to accomplish this and locked them down in a cell. Now, between 2 and 4 in the morning, someone knocks on the door and says, do you want to have a shower? They put them in shackles and take them to a shower. They are offering them food. If they want to slip it through the door and have a meal by themselves, they can. Most of them are saying no. So then they go back around and they physically, with force, take the inmate, strap him into a chair, secure his head on a chair, and then put a feeding tube in up through his nose and pump food into the stomach to keep the inmate from succeeding in committing suicide by starvation. Tensions, as you can imagine, are very high, and no one seems to know if this is going to abate, if maybe by July some of them will be allowed communal living again. There is one small block where there's 12 inmates who are allowed to remain together. They did not participate in any of the shenanigans that got the big group in trouble. All right, I'll make my point and then we'll go on to the Gosnell story. The authorities had trouble finding a resting place for one dead terrorist. We have 160 live terrorists. Where are you going to put them? If you don't keep them in Guantanamo, where are you going to put them? There were talks early on about them going to a prison facility in Virginia. The people of Virginia screamed bloody murder and they stopped that. There was talk about putting them in Illinois. The people of Illinois screamed bloody murder and an end was put to that. Why is that? Because 160 live terrorists are a magnet for more terrorists. You'd have terrorists coming over the border from Mexico, going to the community where those people were being held as prisoners and starting to blow stuff up and saying, release our friends. This happens all the time in the Middle East. People are taken hostage, acts of violence, threats of violence occur, release our prisoners, release our prisoners. And sometimes there are, in fact, prisoner exchanges that happen. The United States of America, on our lower 48 or in Alaska and Hawaii, we don't need this. We don't want this. So it's likely that for the foreseeable future, these guys are going to stay in Guantanamo. And now the authorities there are saying they want $200 million so they can build a nice hospital and they can care for the aging population. This is the cost, friends, of fighting against terrorism. When we come back, we're going to cover a domestic terrorist, all right, a mass murderer, Kermit Gosnell. Don't go away. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution. And there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today.
How long, O Lord, wilt thou look on? Rescue me from their ravages, my life from the lions. Amen.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. In the middle of production, we just learned that Kermit Gosnell has been convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder. If you have any children in the room, I suggest that you ask them to leave now if you are concerned about what they may see or may hear on this broadcast. Kermit Gosnell, 72 years old, ran an abortion mill. What you must understand, we're going to show you some of the images of babies that the jury saw when they convicted him. But what you must understand is that what Kermit Gosnell did is happening every day of the year in this country. This is a great vindication for the babies who were brutally murdered by this man. And it should strike the fear of God in the hearts of other abortionists in this country. And there's one other thing that you have to remember. President Obama, when he was a state senator from the state of Illinois, President Obama voted against a bill that would mandate that a doctor attempt to save a baby, or at least provide the baby with a minimal amount of care, should that baby survive an abortion. Now, please understand what I'm telling you. All right? One is a sin of commission, one is a sin of omission. Both are the sin of murder. If an abortionist in Illinois attempted to murder a baby, a late-term baby, and the baby survived, these abortionists were drowning them, smothering them, putting them in a closet to die. A bill was introduced in the state legislature in Illinois, and Obama voted against the bill. He said, no, if you do this, it will chip away at Roe versus Wade. Obama was completely content to allow the death of a child that survived an abortion, just like Kermit Gosnell. Now, these babies that you are seeing, these are images of the children that Gosnell killed. Babies who were born alive after he attempted to kill them by abortion. And then he snipped their spinal cord, stabbing his scissors into the back of their neck and snipping their spinal cord so that the child would die. He was, and he is, a murderer. But friend, all abortion is murder. All of it. Every child aborted at 10 weeks or 12 weeks or 14 weeks. Each of these babies are a human being with a soul made in the image of God who deserved to be born alive. Every abortionist is a murderer. And we have to pray and we have to fight for the day when every abortionist stands trial in this country for participating in genocide. As we leave today's program, I want you to remember Kermit Gosnell killed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of babies in this exact way. He was found guilty of murdering 3 of them. But remember, he killed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.